I'm not around, have you found I'm always on your mind? And when you hear my name, does it sound the same as you felt when you heard it last time? Do you see flowers in my hair that aren't really there? Do you feel the pain when I'm blue? And when you see me, does it seem to be that blues change to life in bloom? Welcome to the Boiling Point Podcast, and on this episode, Mariana Reed for West Shore School District Director, we bring you a local story that's no doubt going to reference a national problem. I am your host, JD, and this is part one of a two-part episode that Mariana Reed and I are going to have discussing some issues plaguing the West Shore School District and no doubt other school districts all across America. Problems like curriculum, books, funding, teachers, space. And then in part two, we're going to dive a little deeper into the curriculum and books, discussing some of the items that my guest is running to keep our kids protected from. Mariana Reed, welcome to the Boiling Point Podcast.
Thank you.
It's great to have you on here. I wish I could have gotten you a little sooner, but I'm glad I got you before Election Day. Election Day is about 2 weeks away, so I'm glad that we got you on. We're going to discuss a couple things tonight, and then I believe you were going to bring some guests with you next week then as well. Is that right?
That is correct. I have a couple of ladies that will be hopefully joining us next week, and they are actually subject matter specialists. And they have been, even before I jumped into this race and into this battle, battling this battle that we are seeing, this darkness that we're seeing for years now.
Well, that is excellent. And that's next week is when we're going to do that. And that's when we're going to really dive into some of the curriculum issues that you're facing, that you're going up against.
Yes.
Now, the one thing I didn't do is write down the name of your opponent.
Okay. The name of my opponent is Mr. Adam Trone, and he's a teacher from the Dallas-Town School District. Okay.
And now, why I want to talk about first, the first thing I want to talk about is why you decided to run. Because when we were talking about putting this episode together, you were telling me about some things that had happened before you actually decided to run for school board. So why don't you tell me about that? I think the viewers and I definitely would love to hear about that.
Okay, so I'm going to make a long story short. Okay.
Okay.
First and foremost, I'm going to briefly, if it's okay, speak about my opponent.
Yeah, sure.
So my opponent and myself, actually my opponent and my family, met maybe, I would say 2.5 years ago. And this was when New Cumberland was having these Black Lives Matter rallies out here and certain other issues that were taking place. So he and my husband had a difference of opinion, political, okay, online. Well, let me tell you, that online difference took an ugly head when my opponent decided to call a doxing campaign on my husband.
Okay, now what is that for anybody who's not familiar with that term?
Okay, so a doxing campaign is when you try to find out, and it's really not hard in today's information age, where somebody works, where somebody lives, anything about their spouse, their children, any information that they pretty much want. Now, I am a licensed skip tracer, and I can tell you it's not very difficult nowadays. Okay, so that being stated, he was able, with the help of some people, other people in the community, to find out where he was working. But when they found out where he worked, they realized that it wasn't too smart for them to go and protest there. Okay. In other words, at that point, what they were doing, they were calling people's job and getting people fired, labeling them a racist. I myself was labeled as a white supremacist. Problem, I'm not white. I'm Spanish. And anybody who knows anything about Puerto Ricans, you know that we are white, African, and Indian. But that being stated, during the school year last year, open school night, my husband and I went to Cedar Cliff High School because we have two boys going to Cedar Cliff High School. And during open school night, you can go basically anywhere, to the library, wherever you want to go. So we were in the library because the kids wanted to show us the library. And all of a sudden, one of the boys come, they're in what I call the Beavis and Butthead age. Look at this, right? So I looked at the book and it was genderqueer. Now, I have heard of the book, I never really took a look at it. So I looked at the book and my jaw dropped. And they also had This Book is Gay. Now, the book was displayed in the library. And unfortunately, because of the time of night and it was back to school night, there wasn't a librarian there or, some staff member we can ask. And if you've ever been to one of these back to school nights, you only have X amount of seconds to be here, there, and everywhere to meet other teachers.
Yeah.
Okay, so my husband and I meant to go earlier, in the year to discuss with the school board, but because he has a crazy work schedule, I have a crazy work schedule, and most parents work, we decided, well, before the new year, which we have in this year, started, we will discuss it at the school board and bring it to their attention. Oh, my word. Did I open a can of worms? Okay, so when my husband went and he spoke.
You went to a school board meeting.
Yes, correct.
Okay, so something tells me this is going to play out similar to some of those videos that we've seen online where parents try to protest.
We weren't going to yell and act crazy.
You didn't make a scene, no, but there's plenty of videos out there of parents just making valid points and the school board shutting them down. So is that what you think?
So my husband speaks and he addresses the issue immediately. The president of the school board, Brian Geiswhite, tries to shut him down. You can't make these allegations without proof. Where's your proof? You can't make these allegations. And why did you take so long to come? He's like, well, because of my work schedule. Not everybody has, an open, or flex schedule. Okay. So you need to come and you need to bring us proof. Okay. So we go the following school board meeting and bring copies of what we saw in the book. Okay. So at this point, they're upset. Okay. And I'll let you know in a minute what I didn't know. Okay. They're upset and they're practically calling my husband a liar. Okay. Now, at this point, I told you I'm Puerto Rican, right? Okay. So at this point, I did not like the way he was being talked down to. First, they talked down to him in the first meeting and he went with Allison Shipp from Moms for Liberty and Christy Spangler, two very vocal voices out here for the parents and for the children. Okay. And they set Brian Geiswhite in his place. Now, when the second meeting where I'm at, they're practically calling my husband a liar, the school superintendent, Todd Stokes, So at this point, I said, excuse me, he is not lying. I was there with him. Okay, I was in the Cedar Cliff High School, in the library, with the book in my hand. Okay, now Brian Geiswhite is getting even more aggravated, and he's trying to silence me. Good try. I reminded all of them, that they work for us. Okay, we vote them in, and we can vote him out. Okay, yeah. At that point, the whole board became silent. And I said, and we're not going to stand here and say that something didn't happen or, or make up that something happened that didn't happen. Okay, it has to be addressed because this is something that's going on in the school. Okay, so they try to, brush it under the rug. So Todd Stokes stated, that's the superintendent, that he was going to have it being investigated and they were going to get in contact with us. Well, I'll tell you this. Here we are, October 21st. Todd Stokes never, ever contacted us, but went on the York Dispatch and told the York Dispatch that he investigated, that he found no books, that it wasn't true, that he told us, and that we declined a comment to the York Dispatch. None of that ever happened. But I'll tell you what did happen. Okay? So see, he doesn't know that I know. One of the school board members decided to go to the school. He tried to stop her until she reminded him that he works for them. Unfortunately, they didn't find the books. Okay, the books were removed. Now, this is the missing piece of the puzzle that what I didn't know. And it came forth by somebody who knows and showed me the proof. Brian Geiswhite, president of the school board, his wife is the main librarian of the West Shore School District. And she's also the president of the LGBTQ clubs. And the book goes missing. Okay. Now they were arguing that the book was not on the online catalog because you can go, any parent can go to the district page on the online catalog and put in the book. And if it's catalog, it's going to come up. But the problem is this is why I want you guys to keep in mind that if that book was donated, which we found out that an organization donated it, it's not going to be in the catalog.
Oh, is that right?
That is correct. Okay, so they're trying to hide that it happened. Now, when Casey went, right, the first meeting, within 24 hours, not even 24 hours, I would say maybe 10 hours tops, because that night I went to sleep late. They already had a piece on the York Dispatch calling my husband and myself community extremists. They needed to collect money to stop the community extremists in New Cumberland. They called us book banners. So let me tell you something, Jonathan. You're smart. I'm not that dumb. If they took it upon themselves in less than 24 hours to put out a hit piece like that, what do they have to hide?
Yeah.
Now, why did I jump into the race? It's going to be interesting. You know, I'm not a political person at all. Okay. That's my husband, not me. Okay. Now, Juneteenth, 19th, I was off from work. I was weeding the front yard. Okay. Now, this was a day after the second meeting, the one that I was present.
Okay. So I'm sorry. So let's just give some people some perspective on how much time has passed. When was the second meeting?
June 18th.
June 18th. And here we are in October. It's not like this is something that happened this school year. This is something that happened at the end of last school year or at the closing
Well, it happened
year.
It happened before the start of this school year because the school year starts in August.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and you're talking about June. So it was
right. Was the year previous.
Yeah. Okay. So here we are in October, and you said you never received any response from them.
Nope. I even emailed them. I have the email. You want to see it? I even emailed them. They did not give me a reply. I found out through somebody else, okay, who the other school member that was concerned, the school board member, went. They tried to stop her. She still went, but of course, at this point in time, everything was removed. Now, I've spoken to the parents of other kids and other kids that go into that particular school, and they can attest, yes, those books were there, and those books are still there, hidden, but they're there.
Yeah, yeah, that's interesting. Okay, so you're running because you came across all these problems, and you want to be part of the solution. You were stepping up to run to get on the school board so that you can make changes from within.
Pretty much. You see, I wasn't thinking of running. Okay, but now I have spoken to other parents and parents that the parents in the West Shore School District have stopped coming to these meetings because they're yelled at, they're labeled, they're escorted out. These are the stories that I got from the parent. Now, Juneteenth, I'm waiting outside. A car stops in front of my house. Okay, and out comes Abigail Tierney, one of the school board members, came out of like a bat out of hell out of her car, looking at my house, looking for signage. Now, I hadn't thought at this point of running, but after I spoke to certain parents and saw what was going on, saw how they were treating, saw what was going on in the schools, and saw the PSSA scores, I said, yes, I have to run. I have to run because everybody is being silenced. I will not be silenced. Okay, and I'm taking time to educate the parents and let them know what's happening.
And that's excellent. I think that's what needs to happen. So who did you say came to your house?
Abigail Tierney. She came to my front door.
Abigail
just to look for signage because she's Queen Bee and everybody bows to Miss Tierney. Okay, and she is a big advocate of the LGBTQ. The first meeting that my husband went to, the moment he mentioned the books, she came out like a bat out of nowhere. Okay, and started saying we cannot play with the resources of the LGBTQ kids. Okay, because once that happens, we're going to be facing lawsuit. Another school district just faced a lawsuit, but she's twisting it and not telling you why that school district faced a lawsuit. Because they were pushing these agendas on the kids. Okay, and if you go to their site, you can pull those meetings up and see it for yourself.
I am trying to, here we go. Can you see that on your screen?
That is her. That is correct.
Yeah, Abigail Tierney. And I find interesting here. Now, this is a public page, so I'm not going to get into trouble sharing anything. This is a public page. Any parent can go here and look at this, which I encourage everyone to do. Because this is what I found most interesting here is the bottom here. She's a deacon here, specifically this is a deacon and elder at the Camp Hill Presbyterian Church.
And that particular church is very LGBTQ friendly. I know that for a fact.
Really?
Yes, I know that for a fact.
I find that interesting.
A lot of churches are embracing this. And, and I have nothing against LGBTQ people. So let's just put that out there because I don't. Okay. And I believe that LGBTQ students deserve resources that they may need. But give me something serious written by a doctor, a psychologist, a social worker, something that's educational. not indoctrination.
Yeah, I agree. And while I'm sure everybody who's watching this right now wants me to ask many follow-ups, this is one of the topics that we're going to get into next week when she brings her guests in, so that we're going to get a bunch of different people to weigh in on this. So I don't want to get too much into it on this episode and then revisit again on the next episode, but it's definitely something that needs to be aware of, and parents need to be aware of. So if you're watching this, or if you know somebody who has a parent in the West Shore School District, make sure you share this episode out to them so they can see that. Now, I was looking over some of your other stuff, other than curriculum and books, not books that are issues for children. But do you think the library needs more books? You were in the library. Does it need more books?
The library does not need more books. It may need to be cleaned out, but not more books.
But it's a good library then that
it's an excellent library.
Has. Okay, good.
Mm-hmm.
I just know that that's an issue for some school districts to have enough funding for books. Now, I noticed also in your curriculum that you have that we need not just more teachers, but better teachers, and that salary should be incentive based. Meaning that if the kids do well or are doing well, then the teachers get rewarded for that by maybe having their salary increased or bonuses in some way. And go ahead.
If you look at the PSSA scores, the state scores, okay, before the pandemic hit, they were still struggling. After the pandemic hit, they were horrible. This year, I think I provided you with some of the scores. They're horrible. So it basically says this, that our kids don't know math, our kids don't know reading, our kids don't know science and history, but they do know pronouns. That they do know. Okay. So and part of this has to do with what we were talking about, curriculums being pushed, and teachers are not really doing the best. I mean, I'm not saying that the teachers are bad. Listen, no. Okay. I come over from a teaching background myself. Okay. I know that they are good, excellent teachers. However, they are facing roadblocks. I was in the Apple Festival here in New Cumberland 2 weeks ago, more or less. Okay. And we were campaigning. And I can't tell you how many teachers came up to me quietly looking around, thanking us for what we're doing. And they said, they told me we are being silenced. Even if they don't agree with what they have to teach it. So there's not sufficient time for kids who are suffering, who need that special time. Special ed kids are being given paraprofessionals. Listen, I don't have anything against paraprofessionals. Okay. Everything has its place of paraprofessionals and excellent aid. Okay. But they have to work under the teacher. There should be a teacher, okay, ready, licensed, managing this paraprofessional. But it's easier to employ a paraprofessional because you're giving them less money than it is a teacher. Okay. So in essence, not only is special ed is suffering a lot, but our regular education children are suffering a lot. Okay. So yes, I believe that if we change the structure as to how they get paid, let it be performance based. If your kids are not performing, give them a warning, give them a verbal, give them a write up. Out you go. Let's bring a teacher, okay, that can do it. Where is our Jaime Escalantes? Okay, where is our Jaime Escalantes? We need teachers that are going to be dedicated to the kids and education, traditional education, ABCs and 1, 2, 3s.
Yes, I would agree with all of that. Absolutely. Now, you were talking about the test scores here, and I did get that real quick. So let me bring that up, and you can talk about that.
Yes.
So here we have the reading and the mathematics range.
Correct. Now, you see, parents need to understand terminology. When you see that your children are performing basic, that means that they are performing below the acceptable standards that they should be performing. People think basic, they're struggling, but they're there. No, that's what basic means, below. What you want to see is proficient. Okay, so yes, basically, if you compare the math scores, and I can get this to you, okay, the math scores and the history scores and the reading scores of years below compared to now, you will see the decline.
And this is some of the stuff that we're gonna also include in next week's thing, but I just wanted to bring it up here. And I don't think there's very few people I think that would disagree with you saying that we're in decline. I think that's pretty clear.
in a 30-year decline. It just came out in the reports that, and this is nationwide, a 30-year decline. Folks, our kids cannot read. They cannot read. They cannot do 1 + 1 is 2. Okay, and that falls on the education system. It falls on the teachers. It falls on the school board. It falls on the superintendent. Okay, we need to get it together. Because what kind of leaders are we going to have in the future? It's scary. I mean, when I become a senior citizen, which is not too long from here, but anyway, when I do, I'm kind of scared of what's going to happen to this country when we have our kids that can't read. They don't know history. They can't tell you the Constitution. They don't know what a Bill of Rights is.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a minute. And I have up the science grade 8 scores here. You can see they're below proficient, a little above basic, but below proficient. So it's not good.
No, it's not.
Now let's talk about the curriculum. I looked over some of your one thing that had all the stuff that was on it. And the only addition that I think I would have made to that would be American history, because you have I don't know if I can find it real fast or not, but it was you sent me a visual and had a whole bunch of stuff that the schools need.
Yes,
some of the stuff that they need to be teaching. There it is. Hold on one second. The Constitution, the Bill of Rights, protection from tyranny, life skills to include all children from middle school to high school, finance management, 100% all day on finance management. You have 9/11, why we should never forget. Absolutely. Biographical studies of our founding fathers. I guess you do have American history in there, and cursive. I would say drop the cursive and put in American history. I don't even use cursive except to sign my name. I don't even use cursive anymore.
But the reason I say cursive, and this is something that we forget, if you're going to look at the original copies of the Constitution, of the Bill of Rights, they were written in cursive.
Yeah, that's true.
So, that is, you want to call it, and some people call it an art. I think it's a necessity, to write cursive, because cursive is becoming like, hieroglyphics nowadays.
Yeah,
I mean, they struggle with it. The kids struggle with it. Now, Constitution and everything else, we need to know the truth of our country. Do you know that? Let's talk about 9/11.
Yeah, sure.
My kids came home from school one day telling me that it was America's fault that 9/11 took place. Now, 9/11, affected me personally. I lost family members in 9/11. Okay. So I had to sit them down and say, okay, boys, sit down. Let's talk. Okay. And explain everything 9/11 was about. But the teachers are telling them that it's because America, and it's an imperialistic nation. And this is why they're retaliating. It's all America's fault. I mean, really?
Yeah, I mean, there's some conspiracy theorists out there who think that it was some sort of an inside job, and there is circumstantial evidence to support that. But my response to that is, even if that's true, then by definition, the people who planned it aren't Americans. So it wasn't planned by America; it was planned by traitors within our own borders, maybe. But again, like I said, I've looked over a lot of stuff and heard a bunch of different theories, and most of it's circumstantial at best. There's nothing concrete or anything. The planes flying into the building, that's concrete evidence of an attack. So that's where I stand on that. And I think you're right. I think 9/11 does need to be taught as part of, all the wars, all of American history needs to be taught, or we'll just end up, making the same mistakes, especially our founding fathers. What they believed and what they wanted for the country should be taught in schools. That's my opinion. Now, for everybody who's watching this, I do not have my own children, but I do have many nieces and nephews, and many of them, none of them are in school yet, but they will be very soon. Within the next couple of years, I will have many, many nieces and nephews in school. I have only one nephew in school at the moment, but I have many more on their way. So, I do have an interest in what's being taught and this issue as well. And that's why I wanted to get you on so we could discuss it, because it is a real important issue. And if there's parents watching this, I encourage you all, get involved in the school board meetings. You need to see what they're teaching. You need to know what's going on in the schools. And some of this has to start at home as well.
That is correct. And just to continue what you're saying, parents, you need to get involved. Because, this is the future of your children and your grandchildren. And don't worry if the school board doesn't like what they're saying. So what? Because you know what? You voted them in. They get, if any of them get paid, some do, some don't. Okay, it depends, like it varies district to district. But even if they do, it's through your tax dollars. Okay, and it's your tax dollars funding the school, so you have every say. So even if they get upset, let them get upset. Speak to them respectfully, of course. You know what I'm saying? But say what you need to say, because this is the future of your child.
Yeah, and may I also say that this is an off year. There's not even midterms this year in 2023. So this is like an off year for any kind of elections that are happening. So I encourage everybody to check your local elections and see if anybody, see if there's any elections that you need to be voting in. See if there's any local elections that you need to go to the polls and vote on, because I can assure you that not many people know that there's even a vote this year. I bet there's many people that don't even know that there's stuff going on, that there's a reason to go to the polling place. So check it out and look and see what local elections are coming up this year, and see if you want to get out there and vote. And if there's school boards running, then do your research, do your homework, and check and make sure you're voting in the right person, because as Mariana just said, the education is very important.
Yes, it is. Definitely. And one thing I do want to say to my Christian brothers and sisters that may be hearing us, and it's this. I have spoken to a lot of Christian people about what's happening and the necessity to actually go and vote in these school board elections and these local elections, because the local elections are very important. People don't understand that. And the school board elections are very important, because that triggers down into our community, and the school board should be reflective not only of the community, but our values and standards. Okay. But a lot of our Christian friends will tell me and look them in the face and go, oh, that's great. But you know what? This is why I have my children in Christian school. Well, great. I'm happy that you have your children in Christian schools. But we need to keep in mind something. Not every parent can afford a Christian school, because they are expensive. And then we have parents that have custody issues, like joint 2020. So if you have a parent that's a Christian and another parent that's not a Christian, and that parent that's not a Christian doesn't want that child in the Christian school, and the judge says you can't put that kid in Christian school, then you can't put that kid in Christian school. But above all that, not only do we have to watch over our kids, okay, because it's our kids, we also have to keep in mind that although your kids are in Christian school, you pay school taxes. So your money is contributing to this mess.
Yeah.
We say, well, we're Christians and we keep our kids in Christian school, which is great. It's great. Okay.
But your tax dollars aren't going there still.
Right. And it's still your tax dollars that they're using for this mess.
Yeah. Let's talk about that for a second, because I was looking over your material, and you have a unique and interesting tax policy when it comes to schools. Would you like to talk about it?
Yes, this is a little controversial one.
I think it's great. I think it's great. So I never considered that, but your position. So I think it's a great one, though.
I'll begin by saying this has never been stated in any of the state capitals or anything like that. It's just this little woman's idea. Okay.
Yes,
I honestly believe that if a parent sends their kids to a private school or Christian school, okay, they should be exempt from all school taxes. All that money, okay, that they're using should be covering the education of their child. I also believe that if you have no children, then you should pay your taxes, if you do, to the school of your choice, okay, whether it's a public school, a Christian school, a cyber school. You should have the choice as to where your tax dollars go to. Now, if your kids go to public school, then yes, you should pay public school taxes. And that's just my view in it, because I think it should be fair, okay, to everybody involved.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a very unique perspective, though, to take tax dollars and give them to private schools or to Christian schools. But I think it makes sense. You know what I mean? Public schools aren't. One of your other things that you sent to me was, public education. That education used to happen at home, or really in churches. Really, I mean, it was home or in churches is where education used to happen. And it was schools. Schools were the experiment. And you say in your literature that the experiment has failed.
It has.
And yeah, it's certainly not doing its best. It's certainly not doing its best. It's definitely not doing very good. So I think something radical, and I don't even think your view on taxes is radical, but I do think something radical needs to happen for the education system, because it's definitely going downhill.
It's failing. It's absolutely failing. And yes, the experiment was the public schools. Norm was homeschool, or like you stated, in church. Okay. And now I can tell you in the district that I'm in, there's a big push to try to stop homeschoolers. Okay. A couple of meetings after the one that I spoke in. So they came up with this policy that they want to pass, that in order to homeschool, you have to meet their criteria.
Oh,
To homeschool, your kid has to be vaccinated, COVID vaccinated, whether you want it or not. Okay.
wow.
They have to be able to study the diversity and inclusion, social emotional learning, which is a mess, critical race theory. So they're trying to incorporate all this, okay, in order for you to be able to teach in your home. Okay. And this is a wake-up call for the Christian churches, because if they accomplish that, okay, the Christian academies are going to be next.
Yeah.
Okay, there's already talk of it. Okay, so they are trying right now to throw everything that they can to see where it's going to fall and see what they can get away with. So yes, homeschoolers right now are in danger, but they are protected by the Sunshine Act. Okay, they can homeschool if they want to, and nobody can say they cannot. But that's what the way the districts now are trying. At least the district that I'm in is one of them that's trying to limit what you can teach, how you can teach, and who can teach homeschooling. If they feel they don't want you to teach homeschooling, then you don't teach homeschooling. And that's something they're trying to pass.
Okay. That's interesting as well. See, that's why you got to get out and vote. If any of these issues, especially if you're in the West Shore School District, I know a lot of my viewers are local here to the central Pennsylvania area. So if this affects one of your students here in the West Shore School District, get out and vote. And if your kids are in a different school district, may I encourage you to start going to some school board meetings and start making your voices heard. Yes, school boards all over are trying to silence parents, and now's not the time. While it may be an inconvenience to your life a little bit, it might be something necessary to do.
It is something necessary to do. You find out when the meetings are. Now, curriculum meeting, that's the one that the parents want to go to. Curriculum, because that's where, it's like they say the devil's in details. That's where it is. Now, I'll tell you, in my district, they'll tell you, in my district, they made the curriculum meeting so inconvenient for the parents to attend. It's at 4:00. Okay, when people are still working, picking up the kids and all this other stuff. And then they're like, well, we have to worry because we post it online. They do, but what they don't tell you is that they turned off the mic. So unless you know how to read lips, and even anybody who goes there personally, okay, they have to go, we can't hear you. Okay, now I used to sing so I can project my voice. Okay, so if I'm elected, I'm projecting my voice. I'm going to make sure, that the person across the street can hear me.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I question why are the mics off? The answer was that they don't want to pay somebody to turn the switch on. I'm like, well, hey, ask me. I'll come in. I'll switch it on for free. You know?
I mean, it's just,
what they're doing. Now, the finance meeting, the microphones and everything's on. And now when the parent goes to a curriculum meeting, okay, you would think that they will give them a copy of the curriculum. No. They're all in the front among themselves talking about the curriculum. They have the paperwork and whatever. You don't have a copy of it. They're naying and yaying, and you don't even know what they're talking about. And that's something else that needs to change. If the parents coming to the curriculum meeting, they have the right to have the curriculum that you're considering in their hands, and they have the right to say nay or yay, because those are their kids and those are their dollars.
Yeah, absolutely. I fully agree with that, and that is the case. That's the way it's supposed to be. You said that they turn the mics off and stuff, and they are they're televised. It's a public meeting.
Exactly.
So yeah, my EP.
Correct that. According to the West Shore School District, the curriculum meeting is not a public meeting. No, it is a public meeting, but they're telling people, no, that's not a public meeting. It is. Okay. Parents need to go and be vocal about it.
My EP is working on getting us remote capabilities for the Boiling Point podcast, so that we can do something, on location without just having to use our phones or whatever. Maybe we'll have to come sometime if they keep the mics turned off or whatever. Maybe we'll have to go sometime and broadcast it live through Facebook and
that would be great
on YouTube, and see how they feel about that. I'm sure they wouldn't like it.
And I challenge you, go into their website and pull up a curriculum meeting. You won't be able to hear it.
I'll check that out too. Mariana and I got together just earlier this week about doing this, and that with the elections coming up, I wanted to have her on so she could get her message out there. And then I thought, well, we're going to try again next week too. So this is part one. We are going to have a part two next week. We're going to get much more in depth about some of the curriculum that they're teaching, so that we can show people what it actually is and what's actually happening in some of the books. Because some of the stuff you sent me, when I started looking at it, I said, whoa. This is going to take me longer than the 2 or 3 days I have to look it over. I was like, this is something that I need to look at. And also I do need to, no offense to Mariana, but it's my show and I need to vet the material also. I got to make sure that it's accurate before we start putting it out there. Mm-hmm. But there's no reason she can't, plead her case and tell us about her positions and stuff like that. That's why we did this episode first. And next week we'll have, who are the names of your guests? I know you told me, but like I said, I'm trying to throw this together and I don't recall what their names were.
Okay. So tentatively, I already sent them an email waiting for their reply. Allison Shipp, and she is a Moms for Liberty here in Cumberland County. She has been battling the school board for years. And Denise Dugan, she is a constitutional attorney.
Oh, fantastic.
Constitutional teacher. And I think she knows the Constitution like the back of her hand. And she can tell you exactly what parts of the Constitution, American and Pennsylvania Constitution, are being taken by these school districts.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, then that'll be great to have then the three of you on together to discuss some of that curriculum stuff more in depth. And yeah, that's great. Having an expert on the Constitution's never, ever, ever a bad thing. Is there anything else you want to talk about before we wrap up the first part here?
Well, basically, again, I am the write-in candidate, so you would have to write my name in.
Let's talk about that. You're a write-in candidate.
Yes, because I jumped in late. I didn't know, what was happening. When I went to these school board meetings and saw it by myself and saw that the only candidate running bipartisan was Adam Trone, okay, because he's running as a Republican and a Democrat, and he is a Democrat progressive, okay. He is for all these woke agendas coming into the school. He is loud about it also. And the only person running, she got the nomination, but they waited until she was out of town taking care of a sick relative to challenge her votes when she wasn't here to defend them. So she got removed. So at this point, I'm getting calls from everybody. You got to jump in. I'm like, okay. Until I realized the evil that I was facing. And I said, okay, Lord, I have to try to do something. Okay. Yeah. And I have spent most of my time educating the parents. Okay. So I am a write-in candidate. You would have to write in my name. Okay. You have to, my name is Spanish. So you're going to have to realize that it's not Maria, but the best way to remind yourself, Maria with an N-A, Mariana. Okay. And my last name is Reed. The campaign has taken momentum. Okay. Really has. I am the wild child. They call me the wild child. They call me the extremist. I'm like, get it correct. I'm not an extremist. I'm a jihadist. They are extreme. I go jihad. Okay. And jihad just means holy war. Okay. Anyway, I am the one that goes toe to toe with all of them. Okay. Yeah. So I'm loved by many, hated by many, but this is what it comes down to. I'm going to speak to you the truth.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep you informed. Sometimes the truth can be ugly. I am not worried about niceties right now because the soul and the future of our children and the mental health, understand what I'm saying? The mental health of our children is at risk and is due to everything that is happening in our schools. Our schools have stopped being a facility of education and have become a facility of indoctrination. So I actually encourage all the parents, go to these school board meetings, find out what's happening, have these talk with your kids. You'll be surprised at what will come out of their mouths.
Yeah, I think so too. So, yes, look next week. Now, Mariana Reed is the write-in candidate for the West Shore School District Director is actually what you're going to want to write her name in under. So make sure you do that. I just moved and I'm making sure that I'm registered to vote before Election Day so that I can get out to the polls as well. So I'll be getting out to also support you. And if you're out there, if you have a kid, get out there and vote, especially if you're in the area. If you're not, then check your local area and see if there are any local elections, because there is likely some local elections happening in your area. And this being an off year, you're probably not hearing very much about it, even on Facebook. I didn't even know it happened until she came up in my feed. We're Facebook friends, and it came up in my feed that she was running for West Shore School District. And she's been running for how long? When did you officially start?
I jumped into this battle, I would say July.
So she's been posting on her own social media since July, and I just started seeing it in September. So just there you go. If you don't look for it, you're not going to find it. Don't expect that things are just going to show up in your feed, even though your computer is listening to you, because they're going to pick what information they give to you and what information not to give to you. So make sure you look at stuff and read the fine print. That's where we're going to end this episode. Make sure you look for us. We have many episodes coming up, so stay tuned to the Boiling Point podcast. We got one on Facebook coming up. We got the follow-up with what's going on in Israel coming up. And we got part 2 of this episode next week coming up. It'll still be before the election so that we can discuss some in-depth more of the curriculum and stuff like that that's going on that you're running against. So Marcus Frederiksen does the music. Make sure you check him out. He plays us in and out of every episode of the Boiling Point podcast. Go check him out, his channel at reverbnation.com/Marcus Frederiksen. Share out your favorite song. Also check out The Humankind on Facebook. That was started by his sister, Mia, in his memory. So make sure you check out, pick yourself up some apparel as well. Boiling Point podcast storefront, established 2020. Make sure you go check it out. This one has the eagle on the back. Make sure you go to the storefront, bonfire.com/store/the Boiling Point podcast, and pick yourself up some apparel and support the show. We are on Facebook. We are on YouTube. We are on Rumble. Make sure you check us out. Hit the subscribe button so that you can be notified when we release new content. Hit the like button on everything. Facebook is trying to squish us again. Please hit the like button, share out our content so that we can continue to grow our channel and grow the show. For Mariana Reed, the write-in candidate for the West Shore School District Director, I am your host, JD, and that's the end.